Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 45 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. And today, I am very happy to introduce our guest for this episode, making a reappearance. Everyone give a warm welcome to my boy, Eric. Eric, say what's up.
Hello again.
And fun fact, just for the viewers at home, this is actually the second day we tried to record this because yesterday we went to record and then the power went out, so we kind of got canned. But now we're back. We're here to talk about everything related to pushing yourself, discovering what's possible, and why comfort will kill your dreams. So stay tuned for that. But as always, let's hear a little bit from our guest first. Eric, what do you have to say for yourself?
Just want to first say, glad to be back. It's really, really nice. And obviously with that little hiccup from yesterday. But with that being said, even though with that power outage, we persevere forward and keep going. So I'm excited. So, hey, maybe that was a sign. Maybe it was going to be a terrible podcast. I could have said something horrendous, banned from the channel. Entire channel exploded.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe the power outage would have completely caused our channel to spontaneously combust. You never know what would happen.
And we push on.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And funny enough, through that experience of the power outage, we did something fun. We decided to have dinner and we just watched a bunch of old YouTube videos, like dumb YouTube videos that we used to watch when we were kids. Funniest thing ever, man. Honestly, nostalgia is such a powerful driver. It's crazy. And funny enough, that is actually something we talked about on the guest episode that Eric was on, episode 21. So if you haven't checked it out, go ahead and check it out already. But Eric, let me ask you, what is it about pushing yourself that is so important?
I think pushing yourself and really you start to discover what you can actually do and just you discover a lot about yourself when you put yourself in more stressful situations and push yourself in terms of whether it be physical, mental, financial, anything to really push that stress and push that barrier. I feel like you really start to learn more about yourself. You're not going to learn a lot by just sitting at home or being lazy or having a lackadaisical life. You only really start to learn when you put yourself in stressful situations.
Yeah, 100%. And in your experience, what is the most, I'd say, challenging environment that you typically put yourself in? Like, where do you push your limits the most? I already know the answer, but this is for everybody else at home. Where do you find yourself pushing your boundaries the most?
I mean, obviously, that's kind of been our main shtick together as best friends for the last couple of years has been the gym. And that's where I feel like you really do learn a lot about yourself because it's so raw. And I feel like everyone can notice that when you put yourself through the stressful situations, it's an action and a reaction. So it's very, very clear. And you can really start to, you start to learn a lot, especially being years into it now.
Yeah, exactly. Like the more you do something, the more you learn about it. And funny enough, I'm pretty sure there was a quote that said, for the first few months, you won't even notice a difference. In a few months, you'll see the difference. And like 6 months after that, you'll hear about it from everyone else.
Yeah.
And funny enough, we've reached that stage now. I think, like, I'm not super, super big by any means. Like, I still have a long way to go.
You're pretty big. Big credit to this guy. In the past year, he's already gained like 30 pounds at least. So he's really been pushing it. But
yeah, well, I mean, the funny thing is, normally I would say, oh, there's people out there putting on a lot more. But especially through doing the podcast, I've learned a lot about being grateful for what you've done and mainly being happy about your own progress. Because at the end of the day, there's no point in looking at what everybody else is doing because that's just going to make you upset about your own progress. And there was that clip of that girl at the gym with her boyfriend and he's incline dumbbell benching 70s and he's like, man, it's all right. And the girl was like, dude, you're strong as hell. What do you mean? And he's like, but C-Bum's out there doing 120s on incline for reps. And she's like, comparison is the thief of joy. Very overused quote, but factual indeed. And honestly, pushing yourself is where you find the most happiness, right? Especially in the gym for us. It's always finding something new to pursue. And speaking of the gym, I was literally just listening to Chris Bumstead's podcast episode with Chris Williamson. And in that episode, it's funny because they recorded that right before the Olympia and they released it the day after the Olympia. Oh, wait, no, it was 3 weeks before the Olympia that they recorded it. So he had this episode on the back burner for a while and then released it after the Olympia. And the first question he opened up with to Chris was, what do you hope has happened at the Olympia now that it's over in the viewer's perspective? And Chris said, well, obviously I hope I won. But he opened up with a very interesting sentence and said, this year is very important for me. And a lot of people obviously wouldn't understand what that meant if he released it 3 weeks ago. But now after the Olympia is taking place, we know that he retired from bodybuilding after winning his 6th championship to go spend time with his family, his wife and his kid. So I respect that a lot. But I think that retirement stage of going out and embracing a different lifestyle with the family is not as fulfilling if you haven't achieved a lot in your life first. You know what I mean? Like if you don't go out there and push yourself, then the relaxation means a lot less. And that's why comfort is such a difficult topic to grapple with, because it's where you enter this lethargic state. And it's something that I learned about by reading that book right there, Built to Last. In that book, they talk about something that all companies go through. Big companies, let's say Disney, Netflix, Microsoft, Apple, all these big companies go through this thing where they set a big goal, because that's one of the biggest ways to improve. You set an extremely ridiculous standard for yourself and say, I'm going to do this. Like landing on the moon, for example. That's a huge goal. But once companies achieve that goal, they enter something called the "we've arrived" syndrome. It's this state of mind where the company becomes lethargic and complacent because they've achieved the goals that they want to achieve. So if they don't set a new standard, a new mountain, a new peak to climb, there's no drive behind the company. And your life is exactly the same way. So if you always settle for the boring thing, always settle for the complacent lifestyle, there's no joy in that. There's no hard work. There's no effort. There's no suffering. And in that suffering is where you find joy and completion in yourself. So for you, you have been working out longer than I have, right? How long have you been working out in total?
I really started to work out hard midway through 2021. So about 2.5, 3 years of really, really consistent training.
Mm-hmm. And what was it that pushed you to go to the gym?
I don't want to have the cheesy story of being like, oh, people bullied me. But even just a personal reflection, I was a really skinny kid. I was like 120 pounds. I had to check the weather for tough winds before I went outside to make sure I wouldn't fly away. So
that's one way to put it. Yeah. I mean, if you look at the videos of us from grade 9, I have this really funny clip of us right outside the school. And this is when you first came to our school. And I remember you showed me that you could throw like a card like this. And you were like, pass me your compass card. I was like, okay. I gave it to this guy. He just went, whoosh. And I'm looking at that video several years later. And I'm like, dude, you were so
You have
skinny.
that?
Oh, yeah. On my phone. It's in my Snapchat
okay,
memory.
we got to see that after.
It's crazy, man. We came from very humble beginnings in terms of fitness. But that's a lot of people, right?
Yeah. And with that, I will say, through working out and talking about persevering and pushing forward, even for someone like Chris Bumstead, with those stressful times and being able to persevere, I feel like you can push so much farther if you also have a team behind you that's pushing with you. Even though like my original goal was just to not be skinny, the point where I really started to progress rapidly was when I started working out with you, because I had a team and I had someone else pushing with me, and I saw it was like a friendly rivalry or competition.
Yeah.
So I really pushed that envelope and what I thought I could do, and I really just amped it up a lot more.
That's actually a very interesting paradox, because you work out, but you go much like slower on your own. But when there's somebody else working out with you, you'd assume that like you'd be devoting more time and energy to help that person. But funny enough, they also motivate you to be better. So for me, obviously I was always trying to catch up to you in my own numbers, but I think that my numbers really took off more when I realized there was somebody chasing me from behind when Nithik started working out with us.
100%.
Dude, he's on my tail, and I'm like, man, I got to up my bench. I got to up my squat. Otherwise, this kid is going to catch up to me. I can't do that.
I started to get scared because I had a decent space on you, because I started working out about a year before you, give or take. And then the second Nithik joined, you were starting to catch up to my numbers like quick. I'm like, oh no, I gotta keep going harder. So even that, it was a domino effect to help me push even farther with that. So it's been just a cyclical, and the more I push forward, Nithik is so much farther behind, only because, not to like dog on him or anything, but he just started.
Yeah.
So with that, he realized that there's obviously competition. He wants to be as strong as us. So it's just this domino effect that keeps going over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I will say, with struggling with that team, you also celebrate with that team. And with C-Bum talking about that, with going through all those struggles, he also, the reward for that was the family that he had, and be able to celebrate with that family and with the team he has, because he now has a wife and a kid.
Yeah.
So even if I got some PRs in the gym or succeeded in something in my job or financially or anything, it would be boring if I didn't have you guys, because you guys also push me through that, and we all struggle together, but we celebrate together. So it makes it that much better.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's two key takeaways of that story of going on this journey with other people. The first to me is choosing who you surround yourself with is so critical in your journey, because there's a saying that if you're the smartest person, strongest person, fastest person, whatever, in the room that you're in the wrong room. Yeah. And that's a critical point to know, because that comfort of saying I'm at the top is what kills your progress, because you're sitting here saying, oh, I climbed, Mount Baker. I'm so happy because I did it at record speed. Oh, wait, there's Mount Everest out there and I'm completely ignoring it. So I'm taking away that opportunity to be better. And that's exactly why you need to pay attention to who you're around. So that's point number one. Make sure that the people you're around push you to be better, and that if you're in the upper echelon of your category, maybe it's time to move on to something else and tackle a bigger goal. But the second thing for me is something that you said about celebrating together. That's a very critical point for me because I feel like a lot of people these days attribute their success to dark work. And the way I describe that is isolating yourself from all of society and ignoring all your relationships, ignoring your friends, ignoring your family, and working only on yourself. Sure, to me, I think that it's critical to put those people on hold maybe at times. And that's something I'll talk about later on in the episode. But I don't think that it's healthy to cut everybody else off just so that you can work, right? It makes the journey so much less enjoyable. And what is the point of the journey if you don't enjoy it? Because if you think about the time you spend working on something compared to the time you spend accomplishing it and relishing in that glory of achieving it, the time you spend working on it is a lot longer than actually winning, right? So the people you go on this journey with are critical. So pay attention to that. And that's the best way that you can maximize your potential.
Yeah.
And another point that I thought about was when I started watching My Hero Academia. Because me personally, I don't watch anime as much as I used to, but I remember this show had been on my list for a while because people said it was good and it's got a different dynamic. But as I watched the show, I thought, man, this kid is such a crybaby. Like the main character, all he does is whine. Literally in one of the first episodes, this guy's walking to school and they just show him tripping and falling flat on his face like an idiot. But through that, he became so much better because eventually he was given the chance to become a hero. And through that chance, what did he do to get better? He embraced hard work above everything else. Sure, he may have been gifted something, but he would not have been able to bring the best out of that talent if he didn't work hard for it. And it takes me back to a 6th grade classroom. I was sitting there in elementary school and we were asked to do this project where you're given this little poster board about yay big and you have to draw a picture of yourself. And after drawing the picture, you get to put a quote below it that you choose to live your life by. Now, the funny thing is, I know that I put a good quote on there, but I can't remember it exactly. But I remember as a 6th grader, this quote that my friend Ryan wrote on his poster board really resonated with me. And he said, hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard. And that quote always sat with me because I grew up kind of a traditional, talented, smart kid. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really have to work for as much of the things that a lot of other people worked for. But I did put in the hours in other areas. Like, for example, math came super easy to me because I was uncomfortable every single week sitting in that stupid Kumon Center.
I was just about to mention Kumon. I'm like, this isn't a talent thing. You were strapped to a table at Kumon.
God, just thinking about it gives me nightmares. Funny enough, I literally uploaded a video about that yesterday, and a bunch of people commented on it saying, like, dude, Kumon is a nightmare. Like, they wouldn't let me leave until I finished my paper. It's like going to jail. I was like, yeah, it's relatable. So I did put in the hours there. I guess you are right. But that's the thing. I guess that people will never really know your story. They'll just assume from what they really see, right? On the outside, there's no window into your own life. And you never really know how much effort somebody puts into something. So someone like Deku, big crybaby, gets given a chance. You even see this in the dynamic between him and Bakugo because he's always hating on him, saying like, oh, you're a little twerp. You don't, deserve to be a hero. Yeah. But he's out here constantly training to get better.
Literally breaking his bones.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah. I didn't even think about that. Homie was actually breaking his bones to win.
Legitimate blood, sweat, and tears.
Huh. And it's not some, dumb stuff where he can magically heal himself either. So he's like actually hurting himself consistently. But I guess that's also a valuable lesson in growth, right? You have to be really, really uncomfortable to get better.
Oh, constantly. And also to your point when you were talking about working on yourself and completely cutting everyone out, you want that team to work with you, whether it be your family or your friends. Walking that line alone is just, you lose a very crucial part of that, and is working with people to learn off of them and do better, and also help push them up as well. Mm-hmm. It's not a one-man journey. Yeah. And also being on the first place podium would be pretty boring if there's no one in the stands. So
damn, he cooked. That's a good bar. Might have to use that as quote of the week one day. That's fire.
Yeah, but also that quote you said that the hard work beats out talent when talent refuses to work hard.
Yeah.
I want to say, don't quote me on it, but I think it was Mike Tyson.
Oh, actually, yeah,
Because he
it
wasn't
might be.
naturally
It might be, yeah.
he wasn't naturally talented, but he worked his butt off since he was 12 years old, training like 6 and 7 hour days.
Oh, yeah.
So that comes through solid hard work.
Yeah.
And obviously, even though you said that some things did come a little bit more naturally to you, but you also did work hard. A lot of people didn't see you at Kumon slaving away at all those like multiplication sheets and just being beaten with a ruler and just day in, day out. Because I remember when I met you in school in grade 9, you did that all the way up until like grade 11, grade 12. You did it for a long time.
It was a long, long time, bro. It was an interesting and arduous journey for sure. And I still remember, bro, sitting in that classroom. They give you this, this little sheet of flashcards, right? And it has 1 times 1, 1 times 2, blah, 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 all these multiplication tables. And when you flip the card, it has the answers on it, right? And I remember sitting there going through this multiplication table every single week, sitting there memorizing, okay, this is how you do it, this is how you do it. And I became super, super fast at it through that. And actually, I remember that when I was in the 4th grade, it's so weird that I can remember this stuff because it's so long ago. And if most people were asked about this, they wouldn't remember. But I remember in the 4th grade, I was competing against kids that were really smart too, right? And I'd say that I went to a pretty decent school. A lot of the kids there were smart, especially in my class. And I remember that I was competing against, in my own mind at least, like obviously she didn't know, but to me, I love competition. I love winning. I love fighting. I love constantly working to get better. So when I saw that, this girl in my class named Michelle, shout out Michelle, we're pretty decent friends, but I haven't talked to her in a minute. But she used to be really, really fast at doing this stuff. I was like, damn, how is she doing that? And I was like, okay, you know what? I've been doing all these multiplication tables forever. I'm smart too. We were always neck and neck. But I'll never forget that one week we did a 100 question sheet where you have to do 100 questions of multiplication. Really simple stuff. Like most of them were just single digit multiplications. Okay. But overall, 100 questions. And I'll never forget finishing it in under a minute.
Oh my God.
That was my defining moment right there. I remember just going, done. And she was like, oh, like 58 seconds. I was like, under a minute? Number one, that feeling of completion was worth so much that as I sat there, I almost thanked Kumon sitting there like, dude, all those hours I spent studying those multiplication tables, they were worth it.
And if you're naturally talented and just went through it, you'd be like, oh, cool, I'm better than everyone. And you just build up an ego opposed to an appreciation because you can reflect on all that because that's the first thing you thought of all those days I spent in Kumon and doing them over and over and over again, drilling it, and finally seeing it pay off.
Yeah.
And it makes all of it seem so much more worth it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I remember that I obviously talk a lot about Kumon and like slandering it, especially last episode where we talked about how the logo has a straight face in it. But at the same time, I still attribute a lot of my success to it because even though it was suffering and even though I was extremely uncomfortable, that's where the most growth took place. If I sat at home,
to be uncomfortable at a very young age.
Yeah, exactly.
Which a lot of people need nowadays.
Exactly. If I sat at home all day doing what every other kid did, sitting there playing games, I would not be who I am. And my parents actually really enforced me to go do that because they knew that it would make me a better person. So they said, okay, no playing the Wii until you finish your Kumon.
I was the latter. That was definitely me. And that's definitely a benefit of being your friend because you helped me a lot through school.
Yep, this silly guy was not locked in. But then again, that's the thing, right? Everybody has their own strengths to play to. You have things that you're good at too. And I think that's really critical for a lot of people because they can get discouraged because they don't have what other people have.
Yeah. And the only downside, I mean, there's next to no downsides in terms of that level of achievement through straight hard work.
Yeah.
But the only downside is people seeing from the outside and that jealousy or just thinking it is just talent. Because you notice that through school, people being like, oh, you're just gifted. Oh, you were just born like that. You can do it easily. I struggle with it. You have it easy. I'm now jealous of you. And my reflection, because I'm nowhere near this man in terms of intellect, but now starting to progress through the gym and bulking up and getting stronger, I have people from the outside asking, oh, what I have to do to work out, is it just these simple exercises and I'll just be as big as you? They don't see that I've been eating like 4,000 or 5,000 calories a day for damn near a year and training it like day in, day out, anywhere from 4 to 7 days a week with this guy.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The work is never seen, right? And I'm pretty sure, I don't want to quote it, but I think it was Dwayne Wade. He said it in an interview or something, and J. Cole sampled it and put it on a song. And he just said, all those hours you put in the gym, like working and getting better consistently, like many people won't see it, but eventually all those hours will come to light. And that's that single sentence of "it will all come to light" is what motivates me most of the time, because while a lot of people won't see these episodes, like for example, we're pushing almost 50 episodes of this podcast, right? We're at 275 subscribers, over 100 and something thousand views. That's not super insane numbers. To me, it's crazy because I've only been doing this for a year.
It's
but
good. It's awesome.
dude, for a lot of people out there, they won't see those kinds of numbers because they don't even try in the first place. But eventually, when this channel takes off and we have a lot more subscribers, we have a lot more views, people will say, these two dumb kids probably just got lucky. For sure, they'll say that. But they'll also not see the hundreds of episodes, hundreds of hours I spent editing videos, coming up with different topics to talk about, finding ways to deliver this message so that people listen. In a world especially predominantly consumed with short-form content, how do I push a long-form message? There's a lot of work that goes into the stuff that anyone does, especially in creation. And that's where you learn a lot. When you're uncomfortable trying to get better at something, that's where you grow the most. And I watched a TED Talk about this right before I started sitting down for this episode. And it was from a man named, let me find his name, Bill Ekstrom. Okay, and I'm going to open this TED Talk up with a story as he did. Now, Bill works at a corporate job, all right? A very good corporate job, a good high-paying salary, good bonuses, good hours, stock options, you name it, he's got it. He's having a great time. He gets called in for a meeting on, I believe it was a Friday afternoon, and he goes up to the top floor of his building into a conference room, sits down with his boss, just one-on-one. That wasn't really crazy because it happens all the time. He's his boss. They just have meetings. But as he walked out of that meeting, he got fired. So he lost his job right there. And it was a gut-wrenching feeling. He felt the soul sucked out of him from that job. And he sat there in bed at home. And this is how he said it. He said, I quote, "I cried in the fetal position for 3 hours that day after losing my job because it puts your financials into trouble. It demoralizes you. It ruins your self-esteem and confidence, right? That's something that a lot of people don't take into account. Often it's just about the money. But this can be a serious demoralizing factor for a lot of people to get fired. You never really expect that it's going to be you until it is.
Well, it takes up quite literally almost a third of your lifetime working day in and day out, and it to be completely stripped out of your life. It's like, what do I do now?
Yeah, exactly. So he felt really hollow and empty, and it felt really, really bad for him. But through that tragedy, he became uncomfortable. And that's the critical point because he eventually lined up a bunch of colleagues at University of Nebraska, I believe, and with the help of his friends, they studied this whole disciplinary process with becoming uncomfortable. And he broke it down into something called the rings of growth, okay? And essentially, it's talking about how a goldfish can only grow as big as the bowl it's placed in. So hypothetically speaking, a goldfish in a bowl won't grow that big, but if you put this goldfish out into a pond, it has a chance to grow much bigger because the environment is much bigger. So he's saying that the environment can dictate a lot about who you become, how much you push yourself, how much you achieve. So he said the goldfish may grow bigger in the pond. It has a chance to grow bigger, but it could also be eaten. That's a critical point. There's always going to be risk associated with it, and that's why we feel uncomfortable. You wouldn't feel uncomfortable if it was guaranteed success. But in that discomfort is where you grow. So for him, he had this little figure where he drew the rings of discomfort. So for me, I have trusty pen and paper because, we're poor. We need to get a Jamie on this so that I can actually just pull up these sheets and stuff. But let me draw this picture, okay?
This is where we get to see if his art is as good as his math.
Oh, it's absolutely terrible. I might actually be the worst artist. In fact, I already botched the drawing. I'm going to flip the page over and start again. But you know what? That's a lesson for you guys. You can always mess up, but you can always try again. So now we draw a slightly bigger circle. 1. Oh, God, that is not a circle. Okay, 2, 3, 4. All right. Terrible circles aside, this is what we got so far. Oh, nice. No. I don't think you can see it with the glare. Maybe. All right. Anyways, so
there are in fact 4 circles. This is not misinformation.
Yeah. So the first circle that he talked about here is stagnation. Stagnation. So this is for you. Stagnation. First ring on the ladder. I don't know if... Oh, yeah. It looks like you can see it. Okay. That first ring is stagnation. Now, the way that he describes stagnation is the environment. Now, actually, I will say that the rings essentially correlate to the environment you're placed in, okay? Not your actions particularly. So this first ring is stagnation. This may be the worst situation to be in. where the system and environment that you are placed in constricts your movement. A great example of this is the government. They have to navigate so many rules that it restricts their creative freedom with coming up with laws and passing them effectively. So that's the first point, stagnation. Now, if we jump to the top rung is also undesirable. This rung we shall call chaos, according to him. Okay? I hope you can see that. Maybe, yes, no. Okay. Top ring is chaos. Now, chaos is an environment in which crazy things happen to you and you can't control it, and it causes you to not be able to grow. So a great example of this would be natural disasters. In the past couple of days, we've had so many floods here and storms. Now, funny enough, for us, it's not as bad. But for example, in Florida, they had huge flooding because of the hurricanes and stuff. But even here, we were impacted by some torrential downpour. I went to drive my friend back home in Maple Ridge because he got his car impounded like an idiot. But I drove him all the way to Maple Ridge to drop him off because, that's what a good homie does. And I'm going to his house, and this road is completely flooded. So they closed it off. I can't do anything about it. I had to go on a long detour to go to his house. But in this situation, it's difficult to grow as well because there are other factors that you can't control hindering your process. Okay? Now, on the second ring up, we have a desirable one called order. Okay? Order. Now, in order, you have an environment in which your actions are easily predictable for the outcome that they produce. So, for example, if I go work out, I will get stronger and better. That is an orderly environment. I know that doing X leads to Y. The only problem with order is it also leads to a lot of complacency for people. For example, with Bill, he thought his job was guaranteed because he goes to work every single day. So he entered order, and now he's chill. All right, I work my 8 hours, I'm good. Then what? You get fired, and you get canned, and nothing works anymore. So you need to be consistently on the move. And that's where we enter the third rung up, which is the best option for people. And that ring is complexity. Okay? Complexity. Now, complexity is the best ring to be in. Why? Because not only do you have some ability to manipulate what is happening thanks to your environment, but also, and more importantly, there is discomfort. There are things that get thrown into your plans, wrenches that you can't really account for, things that mess up your vision, but they lead you to think in different ways and lead you to work harder than you normally would. And a great example of this would be sports. You always don't know what you're capable of until you push yourself beyond that. Until, let's say you're down by a point and you need to pull some crazy miracle off to win. That's where you embrace challenge. You embrace difficulty and you become better. And complexity can be forced on you by many different conditions. Like, for example, it can be forced on you by a natural disaster. It can be encouraged through a coach or mentor telling you, hey, you got to learn to be uncomfortable. You got to train at abnormal hours. You got to do crazy things to get better. But it can also be enforced by yourself. And one example is taking cold showers, going on runs in the morning. So you can decide where complexity comes into your life rather than letting other people enforce it on you, right? So for my question to you is, how do you add complexity to your life every single day?
I feel like as you're showing with the rungs, it is that perfect mix of the chaos and order of being able to have that bit of a chaotic situation, but also having the order within yourself to be able to kind of manage the outcome or steer it in the way you want. Mm-hmm. So I guess the way I add so-called complexity to my life is trying to add at least one new challenge or some form of mild stressor into my life, whether it be even for a simple thing at work, because I kind of work trades. So trying to make an extra X amount of units for the day and trying to push myself, okay, can I work faster? Can I make this look better?
Yeah.
Can I do more of X job? When it comes to the gym, can I push 5 pounds more, 10 pounds more? Can I do it for one more rep?
Yeah.
If it comes to running, can I run one more lap? Reading, can I read another extra 5, 10, 20 pages? Mm-hmm. However much I want to push myself. Can I wake up 5-10 minutes earlier? What can I do for my family? Trying to just add something else, that mild stressor.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really good thing you said. Adding the little things, I think that's a underlying point in what you just said. You don't really have to make a huge change to get better.
A lot of people think that you have to do this drastic jump. People think, oh, if I want to lose weight, I got to cut down my calories. I got to eat 3 salads a day, drink water, and walk 20,000 steps. but it's a lot more simple. And if you take those baby steps, it helps break it down so much better. So you actually have one long goal. Opposed to being one massive mountain, you can break it down to singular steps.
Yeah.
So you can go one small stage at a time. And by the time you've actually gone through a couple steps, you look back and you realize how much you've done. It's also a motivator in and of itself. And you start to correlate, oh, that stress is actually giving me results so I can keep pushing. And it gives you, it's the quote unquote cookie in the jar that you can reflect and look back on. It's like, okay, this will help keep me going.
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to put it. And that's something that David Goggins talks about all the time, where he's like reaching in the cookie jar of my past and finding things that pushed me to become better. That is definitely a really good way to put it. I think that the little wins pile up over time and they make the rest of your day really good. And one thing for me is recently I kind of fell off on this, which makes me really upset. And I realized that might be one of the reasons why I haven't been as productive as I want to be at times in the past few days. It's the fact that I stopped taking my cold showers as much. And it's interesting because when I'm doing the cold showers, I'm doing something tough, something I don't want to do, especially after a long day. I want to sit back, have a warm shower like everybody else. But I remember that embracing that discomfort allows me to have confidence when I do everything else. And I think that's not something that's addressed frequently enough when it comes to doing the difficult things, is the confidence and self-rapport that you build with yourself. Like you have this sheet saying, all right, I did this, and this today. I did this, and this yesterday. For the past couple of months, I've been consistent with this. That's a win. That little bit improves your confidence a lot more. Obviously, for me, talking comes kind of, I wouldn't say naturally, actually. I spent several years in a Toastmasters club. That's how I got better at public speaking to the point where I can have conversations with people like this and put them on the internet. I wouldn't be able to if I didn't spend those hours being uncomfortable in a Toastmasters class. And I will say, for a lot of you out there, it's probably one of the things I recommend the most because it's not just about public speaking. It's about talking to your boss for a raise, making new friends, going out there and conveying a new message on YouTube. There's always new things that you can do, but you may not have the skills to do it. So trying something new, especially something uncomfortable, will make you better. And that's what I learned, especially through Toastmasters, because I remember the first day I walked in, I was a nervous kid, and I'm sat there, and Toastmasters clubs, or at least good ones, always do this little thing called an icebreaker exercise, where they go around the room, every single person says, oh, my name is so-and-so, and I like this. So for me, mine was, my name is Akitha, and I like hockey. That was my little icebreaker. And then you go around the room, and for the first meeting, they usually let you ease into it and just see what's happening. But then after that, the next week, they say, all right, why don't you do a speech? So a speech is about 5 to 7 minutes in length. You get to prepare for it if you want, and then you go up there and you talk. And the first one is just all about you. Who are you? What do you stand for? What do you like? And that makes it really easy for people to open up. So if you haven't tried a Toastmasters club before, I strongly suggest doing it. Life-changing experience, because that discomfort made me who I am today. Without it, I wouldn't be as good at talking as I am.
And I can see how you talk, and not only interacting with me, but even just your family and friends and other people outside of just your scope of your standard circle. It helps with that speech clarity and bringing those thoughts straight into words. And it helps also show people more of what you're about and what you want to say. Because if you kind of have that barrier inside your brain and that bit of nervousness, and you can't have that proper filter of direct thought to speech, then you can get misconstrued much easier.
That's actually a really good way to put it. Yeah, that the barriers in your own mind are often what stop you the most.
Even if you're not specifically puffing your chest up and have a fancy suit and tie on and trying to exude this massive confidence, just how you speak, you're not trying to be confident, but it shows confidence.
Well, yeah, you don't really need to try hard to be confident. It's not difficult. It's kind of just a state of mind almost. You just sit and be yourself. And that's the best part. If you're happy with who you are, why does it matter what anybody else thinks? As long as you're pushing yourself consistently, that's my critical point. I don't want you to sit here and say, oh, Akita told me that as long as I love myself, I can sit here and be a lazy couch potato. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is other people who knock you for trying or care about what you do, that doesn't matter. But I'm saying you should demand the most from yourself, always, because that's how you get better. And this is a quote that I definitely want to use for quote of the week later at some point. But I'm going to drop it here for those of you that are, making it this far into the episode. And the quote is, the harder you are on yourself, the easier life is on you. And that is so important because as you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, you take away the opportunity for life to surprise you. You take away the chance for life to say, hey, I'm going to throw discomfort this guy's way. Oh, wait, he's already doing it on his own. That allows you to take control of suffering and turn it into growth. If you take control of your life, that's where you become better. If you decide, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to run, I'm going to take cold showers, then when life says, hey, someone close to you is going to pass away this week, how are you going to handle it? Are you going to stay disciplined? Yes, I am, because I've been doing it this whole time and I pushed it on myself. I didn't need anyone else to teach me. I didn't need anyone else to push me. I did it on my own. And always asking yourself for more, giving that extra 1% always is critical. And David Goggins talks about this in his book, where he says that there's always that 1 second moment where you decide whether you're going to quit or keep going. That is the most important part. It's not about all the hours you're actually working. It's about those split second decisions where you're deciding if you're going to quit or not. In the gym, that should feel most important for all of us. Tell us how it felt crushing 365 on squat.
Pretty damn good. And I feel like the one thing that helps the most, and I know you talk about trying to demand more of yourself, is viewing it not as this is an obstacle I have to overcome, but this is an obligation. This is something I have to do. Because I don't like to wake up early, and I mean, I can motivate myself to get up early, but if I don't wake up early enough, I'm going to be late for work, then I'm going to lose my job.
Yeah, exactly.
So for that, that's an obligation. I need to do that. So framing everything else around in your life, whether that be for physical or mental, framing it as a specific obligation, it's not I guess I have to push myself through to do this. Is I need to do this. This is like, I need to breathe. You don't think about, I need to inhale and exhale. If you do, I'm slightly worried for you. But
that's actually really funny though, because as you say, you are not manually breathing, the person now thinks they're manually breathing. Now I'm manually breathing. What did you do to me?
You're the one who brought it up. Now I am.
No, now I can't breathe. This is terrible. Oh my God. Okay, anyways. One other thing that for me is really critical is trying new things, because you never really know what it's going to lead to. So attempting something crazy, right? Attempting something different. For me, that's starting this podcast. It's not really insane to try and do, but putting my life out there and telling people about what I do on a day-to-day basis can be sometimes concerning, because now everyone has a looking glass into my life, into what I do on a day-to-day basis. So for me, consistently talking about this stuff is not always easy. But it opened up so many new avenues for me, because now, after doing this whole content creation thing for about a year, I have 3 new ideas for channels that I could start. 3 unique things I could do and pursue my passions. So by attempting this one crazy thing that I never thought I would do, I discovered more in myself and also brought out more in the people around me. I wouldn't say that we've reached a level of success where a lot of people comment on our posts yet, but I hope that I will reach it one day. And more importantly, the people who do comment are typically saying good things and are, supporting the message. I even had someone DM me on Instagram saying, dude, you haven't made it big yet, but I see the vision with this channel. Keep going, keep pushing yourself, and always become better. So for that, single message, it can change a person's life. It can push them to try something new and be better. So for you out there who's listening and may not be attempting something new, go out there and try it. Like, let me ask you, what is something that you tried that you didn't know if you could take it on, but you tried it anyways and it turned out good?
Honestly, just a completely new job avenue. I didn't know how I would perform in it. The stressful situations, working around like heavy machinery, I didn't know how I'd handle it. And it can be very, very daunting. Like, if I'm not careful or vigilant enough, I could lose my life. Other people could lose their life. Like, I'm working with materials that are bordering like thousands of dollars each. Oh, yeah. So it can be stressful at times, but it also keeps you more accountable for putting yourself in a more stressful situation that I need to get out of this, because you don't want to backpedal. You're already through the thick of it. You don't want to go back. You don't want to go backwards. And also with this podcast, I see what it's done for you is that it's also been a bit of an accountability for you pushing yourself and doing better. I think a lot of people should learn from that, because it doesn't mean you need to start a podcast or vlogging or record your entire life to be accountable for pushing yourself and doing better. Even just talk to friends, being like, hey, this week, like, set a goal for yourself and say it to someone. Speak those words and make it iron. Speak in absolutes. And just talk to a friend or a family member and say, hey, I'm going to run 5 kilometers today. Hey, I'm going to work out 3 days this week. I'm going to eat 5 meals today. I'm going to push this new goal in my job. I'm going to ask for a raise. Being accountable, not only with yourself, but also saying it to other people, speaking it out into the world, speaking out your thoughts and your goals to other people. Now they're going to expect that of you. And you don't have to set these crazy goals. And again, you don't want to be like jumping by mountains. You want to go small steps at a time. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Even if I say, hey, I'm going to walk half a kilometer today, something very, very simple just to start off on. It keeps you accountable because you know you've already spoke it out in the world. And if you speak more in absolutes, it'll also give you a confidence in your own word, because now that you know, you can start pushing your goals even farther, because now that I know whatever I say, I will do.
That's true. And building the trust within yourself, saying that when I say something, I do it, is critical. If you're not honest with yourself, you can't be honest with anyone else. That's something I learned over the years, because as I sit here and tell you guys what I do and what you should do, I should also be honest in saying that I do it myself. But if I sit here and lie to a lot of people, like there's a lot of financial gurus out there who are straight capping about their lifestyle, bro. They are borrowing money, rented cars, rented
I was
penthouses.
just about to say, there is a lot of rented McLarens out there right now.
You know what? I don't want to like throw jabs at anyone. That's not really what this podcast is about. But I just want to say, Jack Doherty, I don't believe you, bro. For the record, you might think that you're some kind of guy, but if you are, congratulations to you, all right? But at the same time, I don't agree with the underhanded methods you chose to do that in, so I can't sit here and agree with that. But at the same time, there is something to be said that he did achieve, some sort of fame and status from what he did. Even though it may not have been orthodox according to my values, he did something crazy. He went out there and became an internet sensation of sorts. But to me, I think that it's much better to be loved by few than known by many. To me, that's much more critical. The people who are close to me, if they love me and I love them with all that I have, I think that's what matters the most. And if I get to improve the lives of these people, I'd rather choose that than being known by the entire world. My biggest example, obviously, we just said Jack Doherty, but look at Neon, right? I'm not saying that this guy's a bad dude by any means, but I think that the impact he brings to this world is not what I could see myself doing. It's not positive in majority of the ways, but a lot of people know who he is, but they know him from doing, streams with questionable people and saying questionable things and being weak. To me, I'd rather be a strong man who provides for his family, who cares about the people close to him, and is always trying to help people. That's what I want to be known for. So I don't want to sit here and become famous for doing something dumb. That to me is lame. There's no pride, no joy, no happiness in doing that. But in the consistent, grueling efforts of pushing myself forward and constantly asking, can you do more? Can you edit another video? Can you record another episode? Can you always keep doing this every single week? There are times I don't want to do this. Hell, I'm going to be real with you guys right now. I'm not 100% energized. I didn't have a super good sleep last night, but I wake up and I do this anyways. Why? Because there are people out there who I can change. Their lives I can change. And more importantly, I want meaning in my life. I want to do something. I want to go out there and work hard to earn something. And that means doing things on the days where you don't want to do it.
And those internal questions, you asking yourself, can I do it? You already know the answer. You're just trying to delay it. You know you can push farther and do that and do better. And I think also to your point of all those people and wanting to be more of a bright and positive light for other people, a main motto, it's very, very simple. I feel like many people know it, is quality over quantity. Even it's better to have 10 friends you trust 100% opposed to 100 friends you trust 10%.
Yeah, that's actually a really, really good way to put it. And for me, I'd say that I live by that rule religiously. I don't have a lot of friends. Like, I'd say I have a lot of acquaintances. Like, I know people, and I'd say that I'm a relatively amicable person. But that doesn't mean that I stay close with people. I share every intimate detail about my life. I go out there and I work. And I'd say a lot of people from my high school especially probably don't even know that this exists. They don't know who I am. They don't know what I'm working on. But eventually people will know. One day when I've put in all the hours and it comes to light that, hey, he spent all these years working on that and it finally paid off, good for him. That's how I feel, especially about some of my other colleagues, because I just saw that two of my high school friends, they started a clothing brand and it actually took off. Like, they have 12,500 followers on Instagram, and some dude who plays for a pro soccer team like wore their merch or something like that. They recently had a drop. So seeing that, I was like, yo, good for you guys. You guys really accomplished something, but they never would have done that if they didn't try something new, if they didn't work hard. And that's going to be the cornerstone of your success all the time, right? There's no point in sitting here being average.
And I know you're talking about the comments that you don't have a whole lot yet, but at the same time, almost every single video, you always have that one guy in that comment. So it's about that quality over quantity. You always have that one guy in that comment section. And I see how much you appreciate it, because every day you talk about, I posted this clip and this guy commented again. And I'm not sure his name personally, but it's always that one guy. Shout out to that. You know who you are.
Yeah, on our YouTube videos, it's Odd Society. These guys are they're funny, man. They're good guys. Honestly, I feel like if I lived closer to them, one day I feel like we'd cook up a banger episode on this. Just
That'd be
sitting
really
and having
fun,
a chat,
yeah.
dude. They're funny guys, bro. They make YouTube videos too. It's great. Honestly, that's what I like. I like the fact that I can make friends. And that is not something that I thought would come out of this. Because I know that a lot of people who do content creation make friends along the way, but those are more so in the niches of like gaming, for example. They go out there and make good friends, or people who go out to like conventions. Those kinds of YouTubers make a lot of friends because they get to meet a lot of people. But for me, I never thought that someone would comment on my videos, watch them consistently, and also talk to me like that and become friends halfway across the country. Or I guess the continent is more accurate because they're from America.
Oh, okay.
But either way, for me, it's just nice knowing that there's someone out there who enjoys what I make, especially because I enjoy making it. I enjoy sitting here talking to my friend for an hour and just, chopping it up about how to get better. That's what I like to do. And I do this just normally. It's not like I do this just for the camera. I don't sit here and come up with all these ideas to talk about. It's just things that I think about on a daily basis.
Yeah. There's always that little bit of angst with the camera, obviously being newer to it. I
Yeah.
mean, you're obviously a lot more fluid with it now, and I see how much, even just from episode 1 to now, how fluid you are. Even for your outside life, you have changed drastically in your speech and just general confidence, which is great to see. But we'll talk for an hour, and there'll be like that little bit of anxiousness, see?
Yeah.
But we can talk. We'll talk for 5, 6, 7 hours. We'll hang out for the entire day and won't stop.
Yeah, for real, I feel like we would make a good dynamic on a Joe Rogan podcast, like where you just talk for 3 hours about nonsense, just randomly talk about stuff like aliens, government, conspiracies. That is my goal one day. One day I want to be on Joe Rogan. I don't know if he'll still be doing podcasts when I'm successful eventually, but my dream is one day to be on Joe Rogan. I feel like he would be a really cool guy to meet.
Oh, that'd be super, super fun.
Dude, that'd be a really nice conversation to have. Just sitting there and talking about random stuff. That sounds like so much fun.
But also talking about that, same thing with that whole quality and quantity. Would you rather have that one guy commenting, or would you have 100 comments, but it's like heart emoji or, oh, subscribe to my Minecraft channel, like some random people? Or would you rather go on like 100 random talk shows that you aren't interested in, or that one podcast with Rogan?
I would give all of that nonsense up to go on a podcast episode with Rogan.
100%. I don't want to talk about myself too much, but same thing with the whole quality and quantity. I have this one car that I have loved personally since I was like 6, 7 years old. My grandpa got me on it. It's the 1970 Plymouth Hemi Cuda. It is the most beautiful car on planet Earth. And I would, even if I had the choice to get 100-car garage of all the supercars, I would still pick that one car. It's because that has a special place in my heart, and I would have that. I would live in that car if it meant not having like a mansion and all these other fancy things. It's that quality and that love and that appreciation for that one singular thing.
You know what they say? You can sleep in a car, but you can't race a house.
That's a valid point.
That's all I gotta say. Also, you said I don't want to talk about myself too much. Bro, you're the guest here. You're supposed to talk about yourself. That's like the whole point. I brought you here for a different perspective.
I say talking about myself as I talk about a car. They do have bucket seats, so I can sleep in it. There you go.
There you go. Maybe that's the new play. I mean, to be fair, I think that story is literally Stradman's whole success story. This guy slept in an Audi TT. For those of you that don't know cars, that car is tiny. It's like a punch buggy from Audi, pretty much. It's a small car. It's a nice car. It's kind of fast, but it is not
That's
a
really
large
nice car. You know what car I have? I'm running my 2 Chevrolet legs.
He be walking. But that's how it is. You always have something over somebody else. But this guy was sleeping in an Audi TT in Beverly Hills trying to get good shots of cars. And eventually, it took off. He took a video of some cars doing max speeds. And then, funny enough, I'm pretty sure he made a video on a Bugatti Veyron, speed testing its max. And then eventually, he, going from homeless, bought that specific Bugatti Veyron. And recently for him, he even bought the Koenigsegg Agera that he helped jumpstart. And that car was driven by Lewis Hamilton. Not even joking. Lewis Hamilton drove that car.
Wow.
And then some other guy bought it eventually, and he was driving it around, and it broke down because the battery died. And the Stradman tried to help him jumpstart it, and he gave him a bunch of rides to different stations to get help. And through that story, eventually, years down the line, he bought that car, that specific car.
Wow.
So I think that that's a good note to end this episode on. For me, at least, I think that you never really know what's going to happen. Yeah. If you go out there, you test the new possibilities, you'll find something crazy that you never really thought was there.
Yeah. And you appreciate it because of that struggle and that reflection.
Yeah.
Callback.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no point in struggling without cause.
He wouldn't really want that car as much if he didn't have that original story of when he literally slept in his car
Yeah.
and then had to deal with that.
Exactly. That's the whole point. The struggle is what makes that victory so much more glorious.
Struggle is the spice of life.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in. Eric, thank you for being on the podcast. As always, this guy you'll definitely see around more often because, he's literally my best friend. So we'll definitely
I'll
get
be
more.
happy to be back.
Yeah, exactly. We'll get more opinions from him for sure. But before you go, as always, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we don't have Nithik here, but we're going to have to supplement it. You know what time it is. It's time for Quote
Of
the
Week.
Quote of the Week. Ladies and gentlemen, it is far better to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much, because they live in the gray twilight that knows no victory nor defeat. Now, I'm going to give you one chance to guess who this is. It's a very, very famous person, and you know what? I'll just give you a hint. He's a U.S. president.
Not Biden. Teddy Roosevelt?
Give me some. That was good.
go.
That was good. That was
Nice.
really good. Theodore Roosevelt said that quote.
He had some really great writings.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was a beautiful man.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He really knew what he was talking about. But to all of you, really, I'm going to end this episode with a stutter. Fan-flippin-tastic. For all of you out there, chase your dreams, dare to do the crazy things, because by demanding yourself and being uncomfortable, you discover what you're truly capable of. Without pushing yourself, you'd settle for a complacent lifestyle, a lifestyle with no suffering, but no joy, no glory, no victory. So go out there, push yourself, and as always, have a great day. Peace out.